Welcome to our webinar, Smarter Planning, Implementing JIRA Core for Your Business Teams. In this section, you'll hear Ben McChesney from Helios Interactive, who will speak about how they implemented JIRA for their sales opportunity pipelines. Helios is a cutting-edge design experience-based studio that specializes in building engaging interactive experiences for consumers in events and retail channels. It's all yours, Ben.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ben McChesney, Managing Partner and Chief Technology Officer here at Helios Interactive. Like Sherry mentioned, we do a lot of exciting work in retail, sponsorship events, kind of screens and strange places in the events and sponsorship area. My personal background is in design and economics, so I tend to think of a lot of internal processes as design system issues and always kind of looking for, that data element of, is this getting us the result we want? Are we getting the efficiency we're looking for? Is there a better way we could be doing this? So that's kind of my analytical approach to how we tackle a lot of our internal processes here at Helios. Scaling issues. So like many other teams, we saw JIRA initially as a development tool to help us develop projects. And that's definitely where we started. So, about 2 years ago, when we started using JIRA, our typical project size was about 3 to 4 team members. We got a really big project in, kept getting more and more big projects, and that team size ballooned to about 12 to 14 contributors on any one project, and also the complexity of the project changed with more interdependent parts and more kind of testing and QA reliant on all these components being in alignment. So JIRA really helped us kind of tackle that larger project management problem that we weren't able to solve with our existing tool set. And, as we started using it for project management, we kind of started getting requests from, other departments of, they were kind of looking at the tool set they were using, they were seeing how kind of happy we are with our implementation of JIRA, so they started asking for help using their systems. For instance, business development was using some other Agile Scrum board, and, after painstakingly trying to, get data out of it, which was a pain because there wasn't custom fields available, I looked at, everyone has accounts, there's access control for financial information, there's custom fields, and there's great reporting tools in JIRA. So slowly, we just kind of migrated everything over and got business development over to JIRA. Product development, we use JIRA for kind of our internal products that we reuse on projects over and over again, whether those are maintenance tasks or new feature requests, just kind of keeps the internal products flowing nicely. Internal R&D, so because we're a new technology experiential company, there's always kind of a few high button, high urgency topics that we're always looking to investigate. So we use JIRA to kind of track making sure that the business development goals and kind of the development goals are in alignment with, what we're researching, what we can share with prospective clients, and also what we can share publicly to the development community. Corporate business goals. Each of our departments, and their individual stakeholders is using JIRA to kind of help manage their goals, quarter per quarter to kind of make sure we're hitting our overall yearly strategic corporate goals. And then lastly, we use JIRA right now for invoice tracking. It's been a big help to really get out of this interrupt basis between, finance and facilities here. So now there's a once-a-week meeting. It's very transparent. If anyone has any questions on, what invoice was sent, what was paid, anyone can log into JIRA and see immediately kind of what the status of their individual ticket might be. So the first step in, using JIRA initially for, project development, but also for other things is gathering information, right? So, what are the current tools we're using? What are kind of the pain points, and what do we need the tool to do ultimately? Then we observe. So what we do is typically myself or our other tech producer, who's a big JIRA owner, they will walk through, what are the current tools they're using for tracking invoicing or for business development tools, and how do we see their pain points and kind of how long does it take, and where do we think we can add efficiency to this process to make it a little bit easier for them. And then finally, we iterate. So after we observe and kind of talk to the team, we like to be very collaborative with the team and give them a chance to kind of provide feedback. typically, we find it's really successful to suggest a few different approaches. We might suggest 3 to 4 different ways, that we could do invoice tracking inside JIRA. So typically from those iterations, we kind of do a pros, cons, and kind of pick the best features out of both, and ultimately typically have a hybrid approach of a couple different iterations. The other thing we noticed that, when we first started using JIRA is typically we like to make it really, really detailed, have every little step along the way, and, lots of, this is a required field, and it's got to go through this strict workflow. And, what we learned is that, especially for our team, maybe it's because they're creative, I'm not sure, but the least barriers we could add made the adoption rate up, and it made the efficiency of just being in meetings a lot easier. So you'll see later as we get to our pipeline, it's very flexible. We kind of avoid the more strict workflows, and it works for us, so that's great. So today we'll be focusing on a custom issue type we have called a sales opportunity. So this is what we use. It starts in the business development pipeline. It moves through all the steps of meeting with the client, understanding their ask, having a brainstorm, all the way to sending out a statement of work or a contract. And then that transitions into a production board where we can track the status of, client kickoff. Is it in QA? Is it live? Does it require ongoing support? Once a week, we all meet to kind of discuss, we have producers, which are kind of our project managers, our managing partners, and the business development team. We all meet in a room once a week, kind of our scrum, if you will, and we talk about all the changes that have happened in the past week. So here we're looking at the create issue screen of our sales opportunity. So you see at the top there's 2 tabs, one for biz dev, one for production. That kind of just makes it easy to eliminate all the things that don't necessarily apply to you. And below you'll see a bunch of custom fields like, there might be agency, the budget, who's the client, a couple other things. And some of these things you'll see are like agency office location, which is just, once the business development team started using it, they would ask us some simple questions like, hey, can we track where this opportunity came from? So that at the end of the quarter or end of the month or whenever we pull these metrics and start looking at it, we can see, is Atlanta a good use of our time versus San Francisco? Where is the money coming in from? So a lot of these custom issues have just or these custom issue types, or custom fields rather, have just been coming in on kind of a request basis as they started using the tool. So here's our lovely workflow here. As you can see, it's very not strict. This is not strict as you can be. But if you follow the red arrows, that's typically how we move through an approach. And why did we choose to be so flexible? I think it's just due to the nature of the pipeline and kind of the industry we're in, which is kind of this sales opportunity plus creative pitch sort of combination. So, we might get in our weekly meeting and, we might be talking about an opportunity and the idea might have changed and budgets might have changed. So it might have to go back 3 steps. Or, we do our initial client presentation and the client loves it so much that they want to move forward straight ahead 3 steps. So we don't have to do a lot of kind of those initial steps. So by having this be very flexible and moving between any status at any time, it just makes that Monday morning meeting flow a lot better and also just gives us a tool that's really flexible enough to reflect the reality of the status of where these issues might be. So here we have kind of some custom screens. So, the first screen on the left here is statement of work submitted. So by the time that we've sent a statement of work to client, there's just a few fields we give the biz dev team a chance to kind of just check over again and make sure they're 100% correct. So that'd be budget, due date, when does a project go live, and then we have some estimated hours that the production team fills out. So we use JIRA as kind of our easy bookkeeping. We can export the data easily, and then we compare that with our timesheet export at the end of the project and mid-project to see kind of where are we at versus where we predicted we'd be versus where we actually are. On the right here, we have the 2 failed category. So as an agency, we have a pitch win rate of, less about 30% or so. So projects fail all the time. It's a part of, or opportunities fail a lot. So that's just part of the process. So the goal of this was that our business development team really had no insight into when projects were failing and why they were failing. So we added in 2 really simple fields here, kind of failed status of what was the last status that it went in the pipeline, and then why it failed. Sometimes it's our fault. Sometimes it's, we didn't pitch as well as we could have maybe. Sometimes an incumbent wins. Sometimes budgets get cut. There's lots of reasons. Sometimes they're in our control. Sometimes they're not. But now we kind of have the data to at least look at the trends and help us qualify what might be a more real opportunity. And once things kind of move into production, you see how our production team is using it. So we have this custom field called experience components. For us, those are things like content management systems, physical computing, VR headsets, maybe gesture control. So by recording what actually got sold, we have a much better idea of what our priorities should be R&D and tool-wise. If we have, if we have 12 projects every year that are using Connect and only 2 that are using a content management system, we should be focusing our internal dev resources into making a better Connect experience that's better, faster, and more robust to be deployed. Resources helps us to kind of keep in track of what are the external parties we're using. Sometimes those are partners that we like using a lot of things we just don't do, like fabrication or sound design and things like that. Other times it's, it's overflow work, so kind of, other small studios, and we kind of pass them to work and help management. So just tracking of, how much of this are we outsourcing? And also from a resources perspective, is the primary development happening by a contractor, looking at all the times we're having to rely on external contractors to fulfill our projects, and then using that to kind of strategically hire people full-time onto our team instead of having to rely on that. And time estimates, like I talked about before, we use these as kind of a mid-project checkpoint and also at the end of the project, just to kind of keep going back and analyzing, okay, we predicted it would take this long, but it's actually taking this long. Why was our prediction off, and what can we do to make that prediction better? And finally, we have our BizDev dashboard here. Unfortunately, a lot of areas are whited out due to it's fairly sensitive with budgets and agencies and things like that. But what we have here is that each step in the process, we use an add-on called SumUp, and then it just adds up the total budget. And our BizDev team then applies a factor to that budget to determine how real the pipeline is for the next 60 to 90 days. We're just getting started with the dashboard in JIRA, so we're hoping to use it a little bit more to see what else we can get out of it. And our advice for the audience, be data-driven, definitely. I mean, I think if you don't have a clear idea of what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to measure that you achieved it, you're going to be a little bit aimless. So set a goal, what you're trying to do, set a line in the sand for what success looks like, and then you can always realign or recalibrate to meet that. Ask a lot of questions. So for us, kind of coming from the design background, design studio, this is really a UX problem. This is a user experience problem. What are you doing now? How can it be better? What are your pain points? What's really, really frustrating? And, asking those kind of questions instead of just getting requests really helps us get to kind of the root thing that our team is asking for most of the time. And be creative. So like I mentioned before, a lot of times, JIRA is such a flexible tool. I feel like there's, probably 10 to 20 different ways you could set up a solution to any workflow problem. But really what matters is, what's the way that makes the most sense for your team, then working through kind of what these creative implementation solutions can be. And ultimately, it's about what works for them the best. So we're Helios Interactive. We're an experience design studio. We do lots of fun and exciting work. From virtual reality cycling at IBM South by Southwest to personalized coffee recommendations with Nespresso and Grand Central, to using transparent LCDs and physical products with Belkin at CES, to doing a VR-controlled car game inside a car sled that moves as you move, to doing human-powered selfie photo ops with energy tiles at the Super Bowl here in San Francisco, to making more ambient digital signage pieces that pull in live data for Delta at Madison Square Garden.
Thank you for watching Smarter Planning, Implementing JIRA Core for your business teams. If you want to learn more about JIRA Core or begin a free trial today, click on the Try It Free button on the left. To check out the JIRA Core product tour, click the video playing on the top right. Want to hear the next chapter of this webinar? Click to see what's next on the bottom right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.